Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AAS YouTube channel. And this is part of the good stuff. This is the AAS Journal Author Series. And I'm very happy to have Michele Ronchi with us today. Hey, Michele.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
How are you today?
I'm very good. Thanks.
Good.
And you?
I'm doing, it's September 13th on 2021. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and the summer is still rolling in Phoenix. We won't cool down until about October or so. And so where are you at, Michele?
Currently I'm in Italy, in the north part of Italy. So I live in a small town near Milan. Okay. So in the countryside, so it's really nice. And yeah, I just spent the vacation here, and in a couple of days, I'm going back to Barcelona, where I used to work.
Okay. Used to work. Are you taking a different position in Barcelona, or?
No, it's the same position, but just for vacation, I usually come back here.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So is it still summer in that part of Italy, Barcelona, or is starting to cool down a little bit for fall?
No, I will say that it's still summer. The temperature is really hot in these days, so it seems to be in the middle of August, basically.
Okay. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Michele, what do you like to do for research?
I used to be interested in high energy astrophysics. So I used to work with gamma ray bursts and also some fast radio bursts as well. Mm-hmm. I did my master thesis on this kind of subjects.
Cool.
But in my PhD now I moved to pulsars. So it's still related, but a bit different. But yeah, it's a very interesting subject as well.
Cool. So how far are you along in your trajectory? When do you think you'll graduate?
Should happen in a couple of years, I guess. I'm starting the third year right now. So, and yeah, in Spain is 4 years. They will path towards the end of the PhD. So yeah, a couple of years should be enough.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to calling you Dr. Ronchi soon enough.
Yeah, hopefully.
Very cool. And that is going to take us to this very lovely APJ article analyzing the galactic pulsar distribution with machine learning. And Michele, take us away.
Okay, thanks very much. And so, yeah, this work was the first work we have done trying to using machine learning applied to the neutron star physics and population in particular. So this work is part of a big project I'm working in. So in our big group, we have different types of subjects that we are studying. So I'm working with Vanessa Graber, which is the second author of this work, and is a postdoc as well in Barcelona. Mm-hmm. And my supervisor is Nandaria, which is also in this work. Uh-huh. And also we have a software engineer that helped a lot with the machine learning part, and his name is Albert Garcia, mm-hmm. which is now is not working anymore with us because he's moved to work with Facebook. But yeah,
very good.
Yeah, and he's amazing. I mean, you can ask him every kind of question about software or any kind of stuff related to this, and he can answer everything. And yeah, the other author is Jose Pons, who is a professor in Alicante University in Spain. And yeah, he's the theoretician of the group, basically.
Uh-huh. Well, that's a nice mix of people working on this. Very good.
Yeah, and so this work, as I said, was our first approach to apply machine learning, and also my first approach to it, actually. So I learned a lot of stuff about machine learning and neural networks, and artificial intelligence in general.
Mhm.
And so the aim was to try to see if machine learning can actually recover some parameters, some physical parameters that regulates the evolution of a population of neutron stars in our galaxy.
Okay.
And in this work, we mainly focused on the dynamical properties of neutron stars. So, and we relied on some simulations. And the aim was to try to recover back the parameters that we used from the simulations to simulate the populations of stars by using machine learning techniques.
Cool. Very nice.
And yeah, so basically the first part was all the simulation setup that we used. And basically we simulate a population of stars in the Milky Way. And by doing this, we have to select some models, of course, to try to generate this mock population of stars. And so we choose, of course, we have to consider the shape of our galaxy, which is a spiral galaxy. And we have to know where the neutron stars are born in our galaxy. And for this, we relied on a lot of works that has been done in the past. So we know now that the neutron stars are born from very massive stars, which are of type O or B, usually.
Yes.
And these are very massive stars and very hot stars that end their life as a supernova. And so they explode in this beautiful explosion and powerful explosions. And what remains of these stars is a very dense core, which is squeezed by gravity and is formed predominantly by neutrons. And these are called, for this reason, neutron stars.
About that. Yep.
And yeah, they are very small and compact. We are talking about 10 kilometers radius. So it's basically the size of a city, of a big city. Mm-hmm. And they have a huge gravity because they are really compact. And they are super interesting because they can emit in every kind of radiation. So from radio to X-rays to gamma rays. So yeah. Nice. They are a very interesting source of a galactic source of electromagnetic waves.
Nice.
So to model the initial position of the stars, we have to know where they are born, and so they are born by where massive stars are born, basically. So the OB stars are born, and these stars are mainly born in the spiral galaxy. In the spirals of our galaxy, sorry. And so we have to model also as most accurate we can the spiral form of our galaxy. And to do this, we use some simplified models, but that reflects also some observed data. So for example, we have the birth position to model. And this birth position is has some contribution. So first of all, the position in the disk of the galaxy, and this is modeled by using a sort of exponential distribution. So there is a very high concentration in the middle of the galaxy, around the galactic center, and then the distribution is less dense in the outskirts of the galaxy. And this is the equation 3 here.
Yes.
And then we have to model also the distribution in the galactic 8. And this is again an exponential distribution, which is equation 5. And again, the stars are more concentrated in the galactic disk, so near the plane of the galaxy, and then they are less dense as you move away from the galactic disk. And then you have to model, as I said, the spiral arms. And for this, we relied on a logarithmic shape for the spiral arms. Okay. And this is equation 4, actually.
Okay.
And yeah, and by doing this, basically you can model the initial position of where the neutron stars are born in the galaxy, because these are the position where the massive stars are born in our galaxy, and so where they end their lives, basically, as neutron stars. And yeah, after that, since we are focused on the dynamical evolution, so we have modeled the initial position. We need also the initial velocity of these objects. And for the initial velocity, there is some interesting facts about neutron stars here, because of course, well, the progenitors of the neutron stars are moving in the galaxy, because we know that the galaxy is rotating, and so they are subject to the gravitational potential of the galaxy and so on. But an interesting aspect is the fact that when neutron stars are born, they can obtain a very high velocity due to a sort of kick, let's say, because the supernova explosion just give a kick to the newborn neutron star. And so you can find neutron stars that are traveling in the galaxy at thousands of kilometers per second. So yeah, this is quite unusual. And for this reason, we have to model this kick velocity, and this is done by a simple Maxwell distribution, which is equation 7 here. Okay. Yeah, and of course, to model the dynamical evolution of this population that we generate, we have to model the gravitational potential of the galaxy. Mm-hmm. And so we have to take into account a model for all the components of the galaxy. So the internal region, which is the nucleus, where also the supermassive black hole is. And we have also the bulge, which is a structure around the nucleus of the galaxy, composed of mainly old stars. And then we have the disk, which is where the massive stars are born, basically. And the halo, which is this big structure around the galaxy, which is composed for most of its part by the so-called dark matter, which is no one know what it is right now.
Right.
Yeah, and then after modeling the galaxy, of course, we have all the components to use to model the gravity that the galaxy exerts on the stars, and so we can use this gravity to model the evolution, the dynamical evolution of the stars around in the galaxy.
Yes.
And this is done by solving numerically the Newton equation, basically, so the dynamical equation of motions, which are these three equations in equation 13.
R5Z. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and these equations are written in radial coordinates. So you have dr, which is the distance from the galactic center in the disk. Uh-huh. And then you have the angle phi, which is the polar angle, and the z coordinate, which is the 8 from the galactic plane.
Okay.
So these are cylindrical coordinates, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And yeah, and so we have to evolve these stars till some time. So this time is determined by the age of the neutron stars. So the age of the neutron stars is evaluated from the time of its birth as a supernova, and we consider a maximum age for these neutron stars, which is 10 to the 7 years. So is 10 millions of years, basically. And we use this age because mainly for computational times, because if we increase the maximum age of the stars, of course, the time that the computer needs to evaluate all this dynamical evolution takes more and more time. Indeed. So it's just a matter of convenience. And yeah, we generate these neutron stars with a random age starting from 0 to this maximum age, which is 10 million years.
Yes.
and we evolved them in time according to this to the recipe that I just explained.
Very good. Very nice. Thank you.
So at the very end of this simulation, we have an evolved population of stars, and an example of this can be seen in the first picture, in the first plots of this paper, which are.
Let's keep it large. Okay. Bandwidth delay.
Okay, here it is. So this is an example of an evolved population of neutron stars in our galaxy. And in the first row, so in the first row of pictures, you can see some density plots. So in the first one, you can see the density of neutron stars of an evolved population of pulsars. And so you can notice an high concentration of stars in the center of the galaxy, the red zone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you move away, the density decreases. But you can still, after the evolution, you can still see the spiral patterns of the galaxy. Even if these stars, as I said, have a very high velocity at the beginning. And yeah, in the second, the third, and the fourth pictures instead represent the average velocity of the stars in each bin of these density plots.
Yeah, R5.
So yeah, these are the three components of the velocity in the cylindrical coordinates we were considering. So in the R coordinates, the radial coordinates of the galaxy, in the angular coordinates of the galaxy, which is basically the orbital velocity of the stars, and in the Z coordinate, so the velocity away from the galactic plane, basically.
Yes, and they're all about peak magnitude.
Yeah.
100. Okay, good.
And this is in one reference system, but we use another reference system as well, which is more difficult to understand, but is useful because it reflects what we really see, basically. Since we can't, of course, we can't see our galaxy from the outside, but we are inside the galaxy and we can see the stars in our galaxy only from the reference of the Earth, so where we live. And these maps, the second row, represent basically is a sky map. So is how the Milky Way appears from the Earth. And so in the first one, you can see again the density of stars, but now they are distributed as a sort of stream. And this is the Milky Way as appears from the Earth.
I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you. Yes. You can see the galactic curve here.
Exactly. Yep. Yes.
This is RA deck. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you can see that the highest concentration of stars is towards the center of the galaxy.
Yes.
So this red zone.
Okay.
And again, as you move away, the concentration is less. And yeah, the other two maps represent again the velocity of stars, but now this is the velocity in the sky. So is the so-called proper motion. So it's like seeing the star moving in the sky from the Earth. And these are the average velocity, the average proper motion of the stars in each beam that we consider to build this map.
Proper motion, both are in deck. Okay, very good.
Yeah. Okay, so this is basically the outcome of an example simulation, but what we did is not, of course, generating only one simulation. Right. So the idea was to use this setup to create a lot of different populations of neutron stars with different features and different properties. I'm talking about dynamical properties. So what we did is to vary two fundamental parameters for our simulations. The first one is the kick velocity, so the initial velocity of the neutron stars as they are born. So if you remember, I showed the Maxwell distribution.
Yes.
And the Maxwell distribution of velocity depends on one parameter, which is the sigma k parameter, which is the dispersion of the Maxwell distribution.
Yes.
So if you vary this parameter, you can increase or lower the speed of the initial speed of these objects.
Okay.
And the second parameter, sorry, yeah.
A question. So,
yes.
Since you mentioned it once and you kind of hinted at it here twice. So when you do just one of these simulations and you run it through the dynamical model that you have, how long does that take, wall clock time for the computer? Is that a 10-second calculation? Is that a 1-day calculation? How long does that take?
Okay. So for one population as this, it takes more or less from 1 to a couple of minutes, let's say. So it's really fast, considering that we are evolving for 10 million years, and we are considering a number of stars that is 100,000 stars in one simulation.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, 1 minute of simulation for that is really fast. But for doing that, yeah, we use some Python tricks. So we use this library, which is called the just-in-time.
I saw that earlier. Yes.
Yeah, and we use it basically to speed up the solving of the differential equation that we are trying to solve.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, just here.
Yep. Okay, very good. And sorry, I took you off track there. You were talking about the
oh yeah,
no problem.
Yeah. So I was saying that you have this parameter, the sigma k, that regulates the initial velocity of the stars. And the second parameter that we considered is the scale 8 of the initial distribution in galactic 8, so in the z coordinate.
Yes.
And also by varying this, you basically can inflate or not the initial position of the stars. So you can inflate the galactic disk, basically.
Yep.
And of course, these parameters are really interesting to analyze because they play more or less the same game in the simulation, in the final outcome of the simulation. Because if you have a very large initial velocity, the population of stars tends to inflate, of course, because the stars are moving away from the galactic disk. So at the end, you will have a very thick population of stars.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you start from a very high 8 from the galactic disk, you have the same situation at the end.
True. Yes. Okay.
So yeah, this is why we choose these two parameters to work on.
Okay. Good.
So yeah, the idea was to use these two parameters, vary them in some ranges. So for example, for the sigma k, we use the range from a couple of kilometers per second to 700 kilometers per second.
Okay.
And for the galactic 8 distribution, we use the range between almost 0, so 0.02 kiloparsec to 2 kiloparsec.
Okay.
So the final one is very thick population. And so we vary these two parameters in these ranges. And so we can create a data set of simulations with all the different combination of these parameters, basically.
Right.
And of course, the appearance of the population will be different for every initial setup of these two parameters. And here comes where machine learning can be applied, actually.
Good. Yes.
Because so when you deal with this huge data set, the best way to try to figure out if there are interesting patterns in the data, or if you can learn something from these data sets, is to use machine learning, because machine can let's say, train on this data and try to find patterns, recurrent patterns in this data, and give at the end an output which is a sort of prediction of what can be physical properties, or I don't know, whatever you are interested in studying in this kind of data set that you are using. And the good thing is that the machine, once you keep it learn, it do it by itself. So you don't need to check what is it doing until the very end, when it spit out some output, and then you have to understand that output and if it makes sense or not, basically.
Yeah, figure 3 here, sort of a nice summary of that.
Yeah, so what we did at this point, so we have created this huge data set, and the focus, the final aim was trying to use a machine learning approach, and in particular a neural network, to recover back the parameters that we used for the simulation, and in particular the sigma k parameter that regulates the kick velocity of the stars, and the HC parameter, which regulates the galactic height of the initial population.
Yes.
And to do that, we so brief introduction on neural networks for who doesn't know. So neural networks are this kind of let's say structure architecture that are built resemble a little the function of a biological brain, let's say, because you have these layers of neurons that works together. They receive an input signal, and they are able to process this input signal and create an output. And you can adjust these neurons so that the output signal they create is what you want given an input signal. Basically, this is the idea.
The weightings.
Yeah, and to do that is a very simple, let's say, architecture, because each neuron basically receives as input value, which is in our case some values from the density and velocity maps we created.
Yes.
And they use this value in a linear combination, so they just sum them up according to some weights.
Yes.
And the output from this linear combination is then processed by a so-called nonlinear function, which is called also activation function, sorry. And this function gives an output that is then passed to the neurons of the next layer of neurons, and so on until you produce the final output. And training a network means adjusting the weights of the linear combination so that you are able to produce the output you want. And to do this, you have to compare the final output that the network has produced with the so-called ground truth, so the true parameter that has been used to simulate the population.
Yes.
And to do this, you use a so-called loss function, which measures the distance between the final output and the parameters you want to predict. And according to this loss function, the error that the network is doing is then back propagated toward the network, and so that the weights can be adjusted and a new output can be produced that is nearer to the true output. And this proceed till the network has learned how to produce the right output given the input.
Right.
And yeah, so for this study, we used this so-called convolutional neural network.
CNNs.
And yeah, you can see it in the picture plot number 3, I think.
Yep.
And so this is a bit different. So a convolutional neural network is used to process image, basically. And so since we have some images to process, we use this kind of network. And so this is formed by some filters that basically slide along the image, and each filter that you use can recognize some pattern in the image, and gives an output which is a sort of interpretation of this pattern. And yeah, at the very end you process so the initial image towards this through these filters, and at the very end you apply a simple linear network, which is what I described earlier, which is just a bunch of linear layer of neurons that are connected together and produce at the end the values of the parameters sigma k and hc. Okay. Okay, so first of all, we did some tests on this to try to figure out which were the best, which was the best resolution for our maps, first of all, and which was the best architecture to use. So we compare the use of a convolutional neural network with the use of a very simple linear network. And we find out that the convolutional neural network behaves better, and behaves better on an input which is of 128 pixel of resolution. And also we compare which maps behaves better. So we compare the use of the galactocentric maps, which are the one in this picture, with the use of the other maps, the so-called ICRS maps, okay, which are the other one. So from the reference point of the Earth, basically, is the sky map. Right. And we find out, and this was a little surprising, that the second ones, so the ICRS maps, gave a better results in the end. Okay. Interesting. Even if it seems that it was not so intuitive there, the difference between the simulations. But apparently it was better for the network. Okay, interesting. Yeah, and yes, if you scroll a little down on the training process, yeah, on the experiments that we did. Yes. Okay, so in these plots. You want to go to the plots? Okay. Yes. Figure 4. So first of all, we try to predict one single parameter. So here we focused on the sigma k parameter. So the kick velocity one. And here in these plots, you can see as we increase the number of simulations we use for training the network, okay, how the error of the network in predicting the sigma k parameter evolve. And okay. All right. Also considering different inputs, so the galactocentric map with only the position information, or the galactocentric map with only the position to velocity, or the ICRS map with position only or position plus velocity. And from this you can see that so the first row is for a simple linear network with only 2 layers of neurons. Yes. And which, I mean, the most basic network that you can imagine. And the second one is for the convolutional neural network. And you can see that the convolutional neural network behaves very well on the last setup. So for the ICRS position plus velocity maps, and with here all the resolution seems to be AVs as well, but we choose an intermediate one, which is 128.
128. Okay.
Pixels. Yes. And from this, so we do some more advanced experiment. So we used a huge data set of simulations to try to predict two parameters now. So both sigma k and the HC parameter.
Yes.
So if you scroll down,
there we go.
In the two parameters prediction should be.
Yes. Just got a little bandwidth lag. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay, this one is for the single parameter. Is again a test that we did.
Okay. You want to slide down?
Yeah.
Okay. Figure 7. CNN desk training.
Yes. No, the other one. Sorry, the 8.
8. All good.
Figure 8.
All good. There we go. Yeah, this is 2 parameter prediction, CNN.
Yeah, exactly. So here, this is what we obtain from the CNN by varying both parameters in the simulations.
Right.
And in the first row, you can see the results for the sigma k parameter, okay. And in the second row for the HC parameter.
Yes.
And the first plot of the first row show how the error of the network, the loss function, evolved in time during the training of the network. And you can see 2 curves. The red one is for the training data sets, and which is used for training the network. And the other one, the blue one, instead is how the network predicts on a data set that is not used for training. So is some simulation that are left out, and you can check on this simulation how the network is able to really predict on some unseen simulations.
Yes.
So you can see that, of course, the error on the validation data is higher because it's more difficult for the network to predict parameters from simulations that he has not seen.
Yes.
But the results are very good as well. But because, for example, for the sigma k error, you can see that there is an error of 10 kilometers per second in the prediction of this parameter. And remember that we varied our parameter from a few kilometers per second to 700.
Right.
So an error of 10 is quite acceptable.
Indeed.
Yeah. And yeah, the other plots show the residuals, which again show the error of the prediction. Yeah. Again, so it's more or less the same information. And in the second row of plots, you can see again the prediction for the other parameter, the HC parameter. And here as well, you can reach a value of 0.04 kiloparsec in error. And again, this is quite good because in the range we considered that go till 2 kiloparsec, an error of 0.04 is quite acceptable as well. And yeah, an interesting fact that we see in the residuals is shown in the next plot in figure 9. And here you can see a sort of correlation between the residuals of sigma k and the HC. And this is somehow what I was explaining at the beginning in the behavior of the 2 parameters. Yes. Because so for the simulation that have a very high sigma k parameter, so a very high velocity of the neutron stars, the network under predicts the value of the HC parameter, so the scale 8 of the initial distribution, and the other way around on the other side. So the network is trying to compensate the effects of the 2 parameters during the training, and also show that it is very difficult to disentangle the effects of these 2 parameters at some point.
Right. they are they're correlated, or in there's a degeneracy between them.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, maybe this degeneracy can be removed if you consider I don't know, other parameters in the that regulates the population of the neutron stars. I don't know, maybe the magnetic field, the period distribution, or this kind of stuff. But yeah, we are working on that right now. So,
ooh, okay.
Yeah,
very good. Okay.
And so yeah, this was the final results basically for our simulations that we did. But it is not the end, of course, because we work here with a very idealized simulation. So basically, we used some maps of the simulations that show all the neutron stars population of the galaxy. But of course, we can't see all the neutron stars that are out there in the galaxy.
True. Yes.
Because we have a lot of biases. The instruments are not an infinite sensitivity, so you can't detect all of them.
Right. For one.
And so the final thing that we try to do is trying to see how the network behaves if we consider all these selection biases that influence the population of neutron stars that we can detect. And so for this, what we did is to take all the observed neutron stars that have also observed proper motion, so that we can see moving in the sky.
Yes.
And you can see for this a nice plot, the next plot in the next page, I think.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
Which show actually the distribution in the sky of the neutron stars that we know right now. So in the background, you can see some gray dots. Yes. And these represent the position of the neutron stars that has no measurement of the proper motion, so for which we don't have information about their velocities.
Okay.
And on top of them, we see instead some colored dots, and these are the neutron stars that have a measurement of the proper motion. And the color represent the distance from us. So the blue dots are nearer to us, and the yellowish and green dots are far away from us.
Yes. Okay.
And yeah, the lines you can see attached to each dot represent the motion of these stars in the past 500,000 years.
Okay.
So 500,000 years ago, basically. So how they move in the sky. And so we use this observed sample of stars to try to understand better the selection effect that are affecting the population that we can see. And in the next plot, you can see the distribution of these observed objects in distance from the Earth, and in their proper motion, so in their velocity in the sky.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Yeah. And in gray is the observed population. Yeah. So basically the points that I was showing before. And in red, the histogram in red represented the entire population that we have simulated in the galaxy. And you can see that there is a sort of maximum around 10 kiloparsec, which encloses the region of the galactic center.
Yep. Yes.
And in blue, instead, you can see the simulated population of neutron stars with applied some selection that we have used ad hoc to reproduce the observed population.
Okay. Okay.
And to do this, so we use this function, this selection function. We have, of course, to give a more probability of detection to the stars that are nearer to us. So they have more chance to be detected, and the stars that are far away from us instead have lower chance to be detected.
Mm-hmm.
So we model this effect by using a sort of exponential.
Okay.
And a decaying exponential, and by adjusting a little by brute force this function, we managed to reproduce well the population of observed objects.
Right.
And by applying this filter in distances, you can see that in the proper motion, it is automatically applied as well in the second plot. Because you manage also to reproduce the same distribution in proper motion.
Here it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
That exponential. Right. So
yes.
You apply it to one and you get the other one for free. Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And at the very end, so what we do is to use this selection filter, this function, to resample our simulation. To recreate a data set of populations, but with this selection effect incorporated. So we randomly select stars in each simulation so that they distributed as the stars that we observed actually.
I'm with you. Yes. Uh-huh.
And we use this data set, this new data set, to retrain our network. Yes. And see the results of this.
Yes.
And in the final plot, you can see how the network behaved actually on this.
Okay.
And
not too much. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So you can see again the error of the network as a function of the neutron stars that are let's say, filtered by this selection function that we used. So, of course, as you increase the neutron stars that you detect, let's say, the error that the network have in computing the sigma k in the HC parameter gets down because you increase the statistics, of course. Right. And you can see that by reaching 2000 stars with a measurement of the proper motion,
yes.
You can see that the prediction of the sigma k parameter becomes quite good, around 70 kilometers per second.
Right, which is 10%.
Yeah, which is 35% more or less, an error of 35%.
Okay.
And which is, I would say, a good result for this preliminary study, at least. And another interesting fact that is highlighted by this is that so nowadays we have the measurement of 200 stars with proper motion.
Okay.
So if we increase 10 times this number,
got it.
We can actually try to predict how the initial kick velocity of the stars is distributed.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes. Nice. Nice. That's a prediction.
Yeah. And hopefully in the next years, so there is this new telescope, which is the Square Kilometer Array.
Yes.
Which has been under development in Australia, but also in South Africa. And he promised to detect 10 times the neutron stars we have right now. So
perfect.
Hopefully in some years, maybe in 10 years, we would have a lot of statistics to work on to try to predict the initial properties of the neutron stars.
Well, I was hoping it was going to be more like 2 or 3 so that it could make it into your thesis.
Yeah, I'm conservative, let's say, but
very cool. Very nice. Very nice. Very good. And that is analyzing the Galactic Pulsar.
That's all, I think.
Machine learning. Very cool. Very cool. Michele, I want to thank you so much for sharing your really lovely APJ article with us. And you hinted at it a couple of times in the talk, and particularly there at the end. So where do we go over? Well, you mentioned 10-year time scales, but maybe let's go a little shorter.
Yeah,
let's say 5. So are there other data sets that can be put in? Are there other machine learning techniques that could be used? Is there other types of data that could be brought in? Yeah, just where do we go? Let's say over the next 2 to 5 years on this topic, while we await patiently SKA.
Yeah, so increasing the data is of course really important, at least for the dynamical properties. But there are a bunch of properties of neutron stars that we haven't considered in this work,
right?
That are very important. In particular, these are the magnetic field of the stars, the period, the spin period, and these properties also help a lot to constrain some very important features of the stars, which are how they are born, because they have a very huge magnetic field at the beginning, like 10 to the 14 they can reach.
Sure.
And Gauss, and so this is huge, and they spin also very fast. So the next step, and what we are working right now, is to introduce these features in our simulation. So the idea is to simulate also the evolution of the spin period and of the magnetic field for these objects. And to do this, in our group, we have a bunch of people, some theoreticians that are working in modeling a 3D model for the thermal evolution of the stars and of the magnetic field evolution of the stars. And so we are going to use also their results in our simulation at some point to try to model the evolution of these properties. And concerning machine learning, we have to use the maps that we are using right now, so the dynamical properties, together with the distribution in period of the neutron stars. So by matching and using together these two data, we aim to constrain better the initial distributions and the initial properties of these objects. And understanding the initial properties is crucial to understand how these neutron stars are born and which are the physical conditions in which are born.
Very cool.
And this is the picture.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing some of that work you just described in your future publication of yours. So very cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Very nice. All righty, that'll do. Thank you very much again for walking us through your really lovely paper, and that'll do, everyone. And I hope this made your astronomy day just a little bit better, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.